Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our live session today. Today we are going to discuss subject-verb agreement. This is a very important chapter in English grammar. And if you really want to understand your sentences well and to make good sense of your English sentences, then you must know how to use subject and verb agreement in your sentences, right? So if in your sentences, your verbs and your subjects do not agree with each other, then of course your sentences will never be grammatically correct and they will not make enough sense ever, right? So we will look into what subject-verb agreement is and what are the rules of subject-verb agreement and everything that there is to know about subject and verb agreement, all right? So let's begin. Subject-verb agreement. Sentences in English have subjects and verbs. Sentences in English have subjects and verbs. To have a sentence grammatically correct, you must have its subject and verb agree with each other. All right? Okay, so we know that sentences in English have subjects, right? And we discussed it previously that in every English sentence there is a verb, and that is a must. So the verb in a sentence and the subject of that sentence must agree with each other. If they don't agree well, if they don't agree with each other, then the sentence will not make complete sense. So yes, moving on to the next slide, we have a definition, a further definition of what the subject-verb agreement is. All right. So subject and verb agreement or subject-verb agreement refers to the fact that the subject and its corresponding verb in a sentence must agree in number, right? Subject-verb agreement refers to the fact that the subject and its corresponding verb in a sentence must agree in number. In other words, they both must be singular or they both must be plural. You cannot have a singular subject with a plural verb or vice versa. The tricky part is in knowing the singular and plural forms of subjects and verbs. Okay, so in order to have your subject and your verb agree in a sentence, what you have to have is you have to have both your subject and verb either single or in either singular or both must be in plural. All right. You cannot have a singular subject with a plural verb or a plural subject with a singular verb. Both the subject and the verb must be either singular or plural. Now, the tricky part is, of course, in knowing the singular and plural forms of subjects and verbs. But then again, they are tricky, but not understandable. They are, of course, tricky, but not that difficult to understand. So we will come to know and we will come to understand the forms, the singular and plural forms of subjects and verbs, and eventually we will make them agree with each other. All right. So moving on to the next slide, we have this one. And let's take a good look at this. Subject is equal to a noun or a pronoun. Verb is equal to the action or state of the noun or the pronoun, right? Singular and plural subjects or nouns or pronouns are usually easy to understand. In most cases, the plural form of a noun has an S at the end, such as car is a singular noun. Cars is a plural noun, right? So that's pretty straightforward. If we want to find out the plural of a subject or the plural of a noun, we just, in most cases, what we do is we add an S to that very noun and form the plural form of it, right? So car becomes cars just by adding an S to it. But verbs, however, do not follow that pattern. Verbs do not follow the same pattern as noun. So adding an S to a verb means that the verb is in its singular form, as in put after a plural noun, right? To form or to make a noun plural, what we do is we add an S to the noun. But to make a verb plural, we don't add an S to the verb. If we do so, in most cases, what happens is that the verb actually turns singular instead of turning plural. So verbs are mostly plural when they're put in their base forms, right? So for example, the verb runs is a singular verb because we have an S at the end of it. So runs is a singular verb, whereas on the other hand, Run without the S is a plural verb. So how does the agreement work in that case? Therefore, the agreement works in the following ways. The car runs fast. The car runs fast. A singular verb agreeing with a singular noun. The cars run fast. The cars run fast. A plural verb agreeing with a plural noun. All right. So here, as you can see, the car being a singular noun and the verb being runs. So both the noun and the verb are singular. So they are in agreement. They're agreeing in number, right? Therefore, this sentence is an agreement. The subject and verb in the sentence is an agreement. So the sentence is fine. So the car runs fast. Or if you're talking about multiple cars, you say the cars run fast instead of saying the cars runs fast. No, because runs would make the verb singular. But we don't want to keep the verb singular because we have a plural noun. So because we have the plural noun, we have to make our verb plural as well. So we say the cars run fast. Okay? All right. Moving on to the next slide, we have some more examples of subject and verb agreement. We have examples where we have our subjects and verbs agreeing with each other, right? Let's take a look at the very first example on the list. Jeff Bezos, the noun. Jeff Bezos is the richest man on earth. Jeff Bezos is the richest man on earth. She teaches better than he does. He talks so fast that it is quite difficult to understand him at times. Oprah Winfrey is an American media executive. It hurts a lot when someone close to you betrays you. Politicians are shrewd and cold. We love to help children. They work day and night to make doctors' lives easier. My father and I want to finance a business together. My father and I want to finance a business together. So what do we see here? You see, in all these sentences, you have your subject. In each of these sentences, the subject and the verb both are agreeing with each other, right? So for example, in the very first sentence, you have Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, is of course a noun since it's the name of a person, a proper noun, therefore a singular noun definitely. And right after it, we have a singular verb, which in this case is. Jeff Bezos is the richest man on earth. In the second sentence, we have she. Now the pronoun she is of course a singular pronoun. So you have she, and the verb that follows is also singular because it is teaches. So teaches is a singular verb. She teaches better than he does. He talks. Again, a singular pronoun, a singular verb. He talks. Oprah Winfrey is. It hurts. It being another singular pronoun. You have the verb following, which is a singular verb. So it hurts. Politicians are. Politicians, however, is a plural noun, right? So since it is a plural noun, the verb that follows must be in its plural form as well. Therefore, we have plural of politicians are instead of is. Politicians are. We love. We, another plural pronoun. Therefore, the verb that follows is plural as well. Love. It had been, if we wanted to make it singular, the verb, then we would say loves. But in that case, our subject would have to be singular, right? So we could say he loves to help children or she loves to help children. But when we are talking about we, which is a plural pronoun, we are having to have our verb in the singular form as well. So in the plural form as well. So we say we love to help children. They work. They, another plural pronoun. Therefore, the verb work is in its plural form. They work day and night to make doctors' lives easier. My father and I, here, of course, you have a compound subject because you have two people talking, two people taking an action, right? Two subjects, a compound subject. So my father and I. Therefore, the verb that follows must be in its plural form as well because we have a plural compound noun. My father, a plural compound subject. My father and I want to finance a business together, right? If we had only, if we had a singular subject, say for example, he, then we would not say want, we would say he wants. He wants to finance a business. But now that we have two people, so plural subject, therefore, plural verb. My father and I want to finance a business together. Okay. Now, exceptions. Let's look at some exceptions. Take a look at this, these exceptions over here. After the pronouns I and you, however, after the pronouns I and you, we put verbs in the plural forms or base forms. Remember this, please. After the pronouns I and you, we put verbs in the plural forms or base forms. I work at Augmatics Bangladesh. You behave so well with the poor. I want to be a charitable person. You are an honest person. I know how to deal with the situation. You speak too loudly. I have a son and a daughter. You have wonderful parents. So in all these sentences, as you can see, the subjects are, of course, singular, right? Because if I say I is a singular pronoun, a singular personal pronoun, right? But the verb that follows I is always singular, is always plural, right? Because this is an exception. We are making an exception in this very case. So after the pronouns, after the singular pronouns I and you, we don't put verbs in their singular forms, but we rather put the verbs in their plural forms. So I work, you behave, I want, you are, I know, you speak, I have, you have. All right? Okay, I hope this is clear. Now we're moving on to the next slide. Okay, let's take a look at this slide. This is interesting. A verb must agree with its subject as long as the verb in the present tense form. Sorry, I'll read this again. I'll repeat it again for you. A verb must agree with its subject as long as the verb is in the present tense form. A verb must agree with its subject as long as the verb is in the present tense form. Remember this. You see, subject and verb in a sentence, right? They must agree, and they will agree as long as the sentence is in the present tense. Okay? So present tense, the present tense is what matters over here. So if your sentence is in the past tense, or if your sentence is in the future tense, then the subject and verb, they really don't have to agree in number. But only if your sentences are in the present tense, then of course your subject and the verb have to agree with each other in number, right? Let's read out from the slide. We must remember that subject-verb agreement must be paid utmost attention, specifically when we talk or write in the simple present, present continuous, present perfect, and present perfect continuous tenses, right? So we know under the present tense, we have four subcategory of present tenses, right? Simple present tense, present continuous tense, present perfect tense, and present perfect continuous tense. Now we will discuss tenses in detail tomorrow, inshallah. But for now, just remember that your subject and verb, the verb in any sentence must agree with each other, and they will agree with each other as long as that very sentence is in the present tense. Okay? If the sentence is not in the present tense, then the agreement will not matter. I mean, like, the agreement is not necessary. Okay? Now, examples will make things clearer. Let's take a look at the very first example over here. Adam walks to school every day. Adam walks to school every day. The doctors are meeting to decide whether to operate on the patient or not. My wife and I have decided to buy a new house. He has been working hard to win the competition for months. Now, be a little observant and observe that all these four examples that I've just read out, these examples are all in the present tense, right? The very first example, Adam walks to school every day, is in the simple past tense, right? Sorry. The very first example, Adam walks to school every day, is in the simple present tense. The doctors are meeting. The doctors are meeting to decide whether to operate on the patient or not. This example is in the present continuous tense. My wife and I My wife and I have decided to buy a new house. My wife and I have decided to buy a new house. This is in the present perfect tense. He has been working hard. He has been working hard to win the competition for months. He has been working hard to win the competition for months. This sentence, this example, this sentence is in the present perfect continuous tense. So all these sentences are in the present tense, and you can see that in each of these sentences, the subject and the verb are agreeing with each other. Like in the very first one, Adam, a singular subject, is agreeing with a singular verb, which is walks. Adam walks. In the second example, the doctors are meeting, or the doctors are, right? In the third example, my wife and I have. My wife and I have. He has been working hard to win the competition for months. In this sentence, you have he, which is, of course, a singular pronoun, and the verb has is also singular in form, right? So he has been working hard to win the competition for months. All right, now let's take a look at the very next point here. When the verb is in the past tense or the future tense, it necessarily does not have to agree with its subject and number, right? Something which I said a little while ago. When the verb is in the past tense or the future tense, it necessarily does not have to agree with its subject and number. So Adam walked to school yesterday, right? Here, the verb walk is in past tense, right? Is in the past tense. Therefore, the entire sentence is in the past tense. So Adam walked to school yesterday. And the very next example, you can see we don't have a singular subject, but we have a compound subject, a plural subject, right? Adam and Joshua. So Adam and Joshua walked to school yesterday. All right. Now, do you find any difference between the two sentences, except the fact that the first sentence has a singular subject, and the second sentence has a plural subject or has a compound subject, right? But the verb has remained the same in both the cases, right? In both the sentences, we have walked. Adam walked, Adam and Joshua walked. So you see, the verb has not changed. Therefore, the verb has nothing to, or does nothing to agree with the subject's number, right? Therefore, the agreement works only when you have to agree, when the sentences are in the present tense, right? So if the sentences are not in the present tense, but maybe in the past tense or in the future tense, then your subject and its verb do not have to agree with each other. Adam will walk to school tomorrow. This sentence, the third example here, Adam will walk to school tomorrow is in the future tense. Adam will walk to school tomorrow. Adam and Joshua will walk to school tomorrow. Again, in the third example, you have Adam, which is of course a singular subject, is followed by will walk. And the fourth example is Adam and Joshua, followed by will walk again. You see? So Adam will walk to school tomorrow. Adam and Joshua will walk to school tomorrow, right? Will walk. The verb form has not changed and has remained the same in both the sentences, right? It's because both the sentences are in the future tense. But if the sentences were in the present tense, then of course the verb forms would definitely change. The verb form would definitely change. So we would say Adam walks to school tomorrow. Adam and Joshua walk to school tomorrow without the S, right? Adam walks to school tomorrow, but Adam and Joshua walk to school tomorrow without the S, right? Okay. I hope this is clear to you. If not, please do let me know in the comment section. I would love to clarify your queries to the best of my abilities. Okay. Now, let's take a look at some exceptions over here. Correct. However, some be verbs, right? Some be verbs such as am, is, are, was, and were change in the past tense to agree with their respective subjects and number. Let's take a look at this. Let's try to be more observant for this. However, some be verbs, am, is, are, was, and were, change in the past tense to agree with their respective subjects and number. We know that most verbs, when changed in their past tense, when changed to their past tense, right, they don't have to agree with their subject in number, right? So just for example, walk, it changed to walked. it necessarily does not have to agree with its subject, right? The subject could be singular, the subject could be plural, but the verb walked will remain walked, right? But some be verbs, such as am, is, are, was, and were, especially these 5 be verbs, they, however, they do change, right? They do change, and they, of course, even in the changed form, they agree with their subject's number, such as I am a learning and development professional. And when I say I am, I mean presently I am something, right? Currently I am something. Presently I am a learning and development professional. When I say I was the first boy in my class, if I say so, I was the first boy in my class, I mean I used to be so. I am not anymore, right? I'm not anymore the first boy in my class. So by the choice of the verb was, I mean that I used to be so. I'm not so anymore. He is a kind of person. You say is, you mean right now, as of now, currently, presently, he is a kind of person. But when you say he was or she was a cancer patient, you mean she used to be. She is not a cancer patient anymore, but she was a cancer patient. So here, you see, is, was, they agree with the number of their subject, right? So if I were to talk about, for example, she and someone else, right, then was would change to were, such as, for example, let's say they, right? They. Now I'm talking by saying they, I'm talking about they is a plural pronoun, right? So I'm saying they were classmates in school. They were classmates in school. But if I change the number of, if I change the subject they, and if I changed it to a singular subject, so if I say, for example, he, right, then I wouldn't say he were, I would say he was. Do you follow? So you see, I am a learning and development professional. I was the first boy in my class. He is a kind person. She was a cancer patient. Jennifer and her husband are a charitable couple. They were classmates in school, right? So these be verbs, they do change. These be verbs, they do change and agree with their subjects, even in the past tense, even in their past tense, right? So if I say he is, then I mean, of course, the verb is, a singular verb is agreeing with the singular subject he. But if I say, for example, you, or for example, he was, in this form as well, is changed to was, right? And even in that changed form, it is agreeing with its subject in number. So he was, he is, he was. All right. So is, was, are, were, and am is also changed to was. All right. So I am, I was. All right. I hope this part is clear. If not, please do let me know. I'll try to clarify it better, inshallah. Now, let's take a look at some very essential subject and verb agreement rules over here. Rule 1. When two singular subjects are joined by the words or nor, a singular verb is in order. Let's try to understand this. When two singular subjects are joined by the words or nor, a singular verb is in order. Such as, for example, my sister or brother is meeting you at the airport. My sister or brother is meeting you at the airport. So rule number 1, we have, you see, if two singular subjects are joined by or nor, right, then a singular verb follows, such as in this very example, given, of course, this example is in the present tense. My sister or brother is. My sister or brother is meeting you at the airport. My sister or brother is meeting you at the airport. Okay. Rule number 2. Two singular subjects joined by either or neither nor are also followed by a singular verb. Now, if either or neither nor are joining two singular subjects, right, not plural subjects, if either or neither nor are joining two singular subjects, then as well a singular verb follows, such as neither Carla nor Jeff is available to meet you in the airport. So both Carla and Jeff are singular, right? They are singular, they are individual people. They're singular people, right? So neither Carla nor Jeff is available to meet you at the airport. Either Angie or Jeff is picking you up from the airport. Either Angie or Jeff is picking you up from the airport. Rule number 3, in cases of subjects joined by or either or neither nor, the verb agrees with the subject closest to it. Now try to figure this out, right? Be a little more observant for this for this particular rule, right? So in many cases, we see that either or neither nor, or the word or is joining a plural subject with a singular subject, right? What do we do in those cases? Which verb do we go for? Do we put a singular verb after that after the compound subject, after the subject phrase or noun subject phrase, or do we put a singular verb or a plural verb after the subject phrase? So what we do is, if the subjects are joined by or joined by either or joined by neither nor, then the verb follows the subject that is the closest to it, that is the nearest to it, the closest to it, right? So just for example, my mother or my sisters are coming to visit me in winter. Now follow this. My mother or my sisters. Now in this case, mother is of course singular, but sisters, however, is plural, right? And the verb that is immediately following is also plural. That's because the subject closest to the verb is plural. So my mother or my sisters are coming to visit me in winter. My mother or my sisters are coming to visit me in winter. My brothers or my father is paying for my air ticket. In this case as well, you can see the first subject is my brothers, the second subject is my father, right? And the verb closest to it, or the subject closest to the verb, is singular, which is my father. Therefore, we say is and not are. So we say my brothers or my father is paying for my air ticket. Either my boss or my teammates, have planned a surprise birthday party for me. Either my boss or my teammates have planned a surprise birthday party for me. In this case as well, you can see boss, of course, a singular noun, but the second, the alternative noun is plural, which is teammates, and the verb close to it, in that case, has to be plural, right? Teammates, plural, therefore the verb following it must be plural as well, which in this case is have. So either my boss or my teammates have planned a surprise birthday party for me. Neither the students nor the class captain knows about the surprise test. Neither the students nor the class captain knows about the surprise test. In this case, in this example, you can see neither the students, right, a plural subject, a plural noun, and the alternative noun is the class captain. And immediately following the singular noun is the verb knows, right? And this verb is in its singular form. So we say neither the students nor the class captain knows about the surprise test. So the verb follows the subject that is the closest to it. All right, I hope this is clear. Moving on to the next slide, we have more rules. So rule number 4. What do we have with rule number 4? When the word and connects two or more nouns or pronouns, we use a plural verb. This is very straightforward. Whenever the word and is, of course, joining two subjects or two nouns, right? The entire noun becomes plural. The entire noun phrase becomes plural. Therefore, you have your subject as plural, therefore the verb must be plural as well. So she and her family are at Disney World. She and her family are at Disney World. Okay. Rule number 5. What do we have with rule number 5? When a phrase, now this is important, please pay attention to this. When a phrase comes between a subject, and its verb, the verb agrees with the subject, not with any noun or pronoun in the phrase, right? When a phrase comes between a subject and its verb, the verb agrees with the subject, not with any noun or pronoun in the phrase. Now, many a time you will find that you have your noun first, right? Or your subject first, and immediately follows another phrase before the verb is put, right? Such as, for example, let's take a look at the example over here. The first example under Rule 5, the doctor, along with the interns, is here to check up on the patient. Now here, the subject is the doctor, not the interrupting phrase along with the interns. Along with the interns is not the subject, or is not the part of the subject. This is just an interrupting phrase, right? Which is why the verb that follows is in its singular form, because this is agreeing with the subject of the sentence, which in this case is the doctor. So the doctor is here to check up on the patient, but the doctor was not only here, he was here with his interns, right? But along with the interns, this particular phrase is not to be counted in, all right? The verb will not follow or will not agree with an interrupting element, with an interrupting phrase. The verb only agrees with the head noun or with the head subject, with the main primary subject, right? So the doctor, along with the interns, is here to check up on the patient, not are here to check up on the patients. Do you follow? The doctor, along with the interns, is here to check up on the patient. Similarly, we say the players, as well as their coach, are here to protest the foul. The players, as well as their coach, are here to protest the foul. Note, the verb are is not following, it is not agreeing with both the players and the coach. The verb are is only agreeing with the head subject, which is the players, right? So the players are here to protest the foul. As well as their coach, this particular phrase is just an interrupting phrase, right? So the verb is not going to, or the verb does not agree with an interrupting element, does not agree with an interrupting phrase. It only agrees with the head noun or the head subject of the sentence. So the players, as well as the coach, are here to protest the foul. If we had to say the player instead of the players, then we would change the verb to is, right? So we would say the player, as well as their coach, or the player, as well as his coach, is here to protest the foul, not are. Now, one of my friends is a barrister at law. Take a look at the third example under rule number 5. One of my friends is a barrister at law. Here in this case, don't get misled or don't get misguided by the word friends right before the verb is, because the verb is not following the noun or the word friends. Friends is, of course, a noun in this case, but here, friends is not the head noun. The head noun is, of course, the word one, right? So you've got many friends, and one of those many friends is a barrister at law. Now, if you said are, right, that would be grammatically wrong. And you're not talking about all your friends. You're not talking about many of your friends, but you're talking about specifically one friend of yours, right? So one of my friends is a barrister at law, not are. Similarly, 2 of the trainees have just resigned. Here as well, the verb have is not agreeing with the word trainees, but is agreeing with the head noun, in this case, which is to, right? Or the head subject. So 2 of the trainees have just resigned. 2 of the trainees have just resigned. Okay. A little tricky, but then again, of course, very much understandable. Moving forward to rule number 6. What do we have with rule number 6 over here? Let's see. The verb does or does not, or doesn't in short, is a singular verb, right? We know this. The verb does or does not or doesn't is a singular verb. Therefore, it is put after a singular subject. However, the verb do or do not, or the contraction don't, is a plural verb and is put after a plural subject. So we say, my mother doesn't like pizza. So the word doesn't, the verb doesn't or does not is put after a singular subject because the verb is singular in number. But however, the verb do or do not or don't is a plural verb and is put after a plural subject. So we say, my parents, which is plural. So my parents do want me to become a resilient person. My parents do want me to become a resilient person. Okay. Now we have rule number 7. Take a look at rule number 7, what we have here. Each, either, each one, everyone, neither, everybody, anyone, anybody, somebody, nobody, someone, and no one are all indefinite pronouns. These are all indefinite pronouns, right? Now, we discussed these we discussed pronouns probably the week before the last week. All right, so each, either, each one, everyone, neither, everybody, anyone, anybody, somebody, nobody, someone, and no one are all indefinite pronouns and are singular in nature. These nouns are always singular in nature. They represent subjects in an individual or singular sense. Therefore, they are followed by singular verbs. You must remember this, that these pronouns, which are indefinite, because they don't tell you anything definitely or specifically, which is why they're known as indefinite pronouns. And generally, indefinite pronouns are singular in nature, right? They talk about subjects or nouns in a singular sense, in an individual sense. Therefore, since the entire connotation, the understanding of these pronouns are singular, the verbs that follow the verbs that follow these pronouns must also be singular in number. So we say each of the patients is admitted due to the plague, right? Take a look at the first example under rule number 7. We have each of the patients is admitted due to the plague. Do not fall for the word patients right before is, because patients is not the subject, is not the noun that the verb should agree with, right? The verb is here to agree with the head word of the subject phrase, which in this case is each. And each, as we know, is an indefinite pronoun, therefore a singular subject, right? So each of the patients is admitted due to the plague. Neither of the lawyers knows how to end the case. When you say neither, you mean two people. You connote two people, but you're not talking about two people as having them together, but two people separately, individually, right? Singularly, right? So neither of the lawyers, meaning none of them, right? None of them knows how to end the case. Individually, both do not know how to end the case. So neither of the lawyers knows how to end the case. Therefore, since you said the word neither, you have to go with the verb knows and not know. All right? Because neither is a singular indefinite pronoun. Therefore, the verb has to be in its singular form. So we say neither of the lawyers knows how to end the case. Okay. Let's take a look at the third example under Rule 7. Everyone is invited to the wedding celebrations next week. Everyone is invited to the wedding celebrations next week. What do we have here? Everyone, again, of course, you're talking about many people, but you're talking about them individually in a singular sense, right? So everyone being another indefinite pronoun, which is singular in number and in usage, is followed by a singular verb, which in this case is. So everyone is invited to the wedding celebrations next week. Rule number 8. Sentences that begin with there is or there are have the verb first followed by the subject. Therefore, the verb must follow what comes after it. Remember this. You know, there are many sentences where we begin them with the word there. Now, is there a subject? No, there is not a subject. There is not a subject. There is just an adverb, or it could be a pronoun, but this is not a subject, right? This is not the subject that the verb agrees with. So we say, for example, the phrase there is and there are. So we begin many sentences with these phrases, there is or there are. So what do they follow? I mean, like, how do we construct the sentences with these phrases? So there is, you can see the verb is in this case, and the phrase there is. So the verb is following what is coming after it, and what's coming after it must be singular in number because the verb is singular. So there is, right? Similarly with there are, when you say there are, you're taking the verb, you're saying the verb before you say your noun. Therefore, since you've said a plural verb, your noun, your subject must be plural as well. So you say there are many paths to success, or there are many paths to success. So here, many paths is, of course, a plural subject. So you say there are many paths to success. And then you say there is only one way out of this. So only one way, one is, of course, singular, right? So a singular subject agreeing with a singular verb, a verb which in this case has come before the subject. So there is only one way out of this. There are many paths to success. Okay? So sentences that begin with these phrases, such as there are and there is, you put your verb first, and then you come up with and then you bring in your noun. So you make sure that the verb that you're saying before your noun agrees with the noun that follows. So there are many paths to success. There is only one way out of this. Okay? All right, moving to what rule number 9 is. We use a singular verb with the phrase the number of. We use a singular verb with the phrase the number of, and we use a plural verb with the phrase a number of. So when you go with the phrase the number of anything, of course, then the verb that follows must be in its singular form. So, and of course, when you go with the phrase a number of, the verb that follows must be plural. So we say a number of students are absent today. Never say a number of students is absent today. We would never do so. We will say a number of students are absent today. The number, but however, if we begin or if we go with the phrase the number of, then of course the verb that will follow or that we will make follow has to be singular in number. So yeah, a number of students are absent today. The number of patients afflicted with the plague has increased instead of have increased. All right, a number of students are absent today, or the number of students absent today is quite high. All right, or a number of students are absent. The number of patients afflicted with the plague has increased. The number of patients afflicted with the plague has increased, or a number of patients afflicted with the plague. A number of patients afflicted with the plague have admitted recently to the hospital or have been brought to the hospital. A number of patients afflicted with the plague have been brought to the hospital. Follow this. Since I said a number of, I'm going with have, which is a plural verb. But if I go with the number of, then I would go with has. So the number of patients afflicted with the plague has increased. A number of students are absent. So you go with a number of, you bring in a plural verb. You go with the number of, you go with a singular verb. Clear? I hope so. Moving to the next slide, we have rule number 10. What is rule number 10? What does rule number 10 tell us? We use plural verbs with some adjectives that behave as nouns. We use plural verbs with some adjectives that behave as nouns. Such adjective-turned nouns are always plural and are preceded by the article V, right? Follow this. This is interesting. You see, there are some adjectives, right? They are basically adjectives, but we turn them into nouns. And when we do so, they become plural in number. They become plural in number, and they're, of course, preceded by the article the. So such adjective-turned nouns are always plural, and they are preceded by the article the, such as, let's take a look at the examples on rule number 10. The young are vulnerable to certain illnesses. The young are vulnerable to certain illnesses. So here you have the adjective young. So young is, of course, an adjective, but when you say the young, and you're turning this adjective into a noun, this noun is becoming a plural noun. So you say the young, right? The young are vulnerable to certain illnesses. Since the noun has become plural, therefore, the verb that follows must be in its plural form as well. So we say the young are vulnerable to certain illnesses. The homeless were helped by the welfare department. The homeless were helped by the welfare department. The injured have been taken to the hospital. The injured have been taken to the hospital. So the injured have, the homeless were, the young are, you see? So the young, the homeless, the injured, these are all adjective-turned nouns, right? Adjective-turned nouns. And when they have been turned, when these adjectives have been turned into nouns, they have become plural in number. And when we do so, of course, we must make sure that we put the article the before such adjective-turned nouns. And yes, and then they become a subject, a plural subject. Therefore, since they're plural, the verbs that follow them must be plural in number as well. So the young are vulnerable to certain illnesses. The homeless were helped by the welfare department. The injured have been taken to the hospital. Okay, moving on to what rule number 11 is. What do we have here? We use singular verbs with verbs that end with ing. Now, this is interesting. Please be observant. We use singular verbs. We use singular verbs with verbs that end with ing and behave as nouns. Such verb-turned nouns are better known as gerunds. Gerunds are mostly singular, right? I'm sure many of you know what gerunds are. And gerunds are basically verbs turned into nouns. Gerunds are basically verbs turned into nouns. So gerunds are naturally, mostly, in most cases, gerunds are singular in nature, right? And since they're singular in nature, the verb that follows them, right, has to be singular as well. So we say walking is a good form of exercise, not walking are. Walking is a good form of exercise. Drinking enough water ensures a healthy and hydrated body. Drinking enough water ensures a healthy and hydrated body. So walking is, drinking ensures, right? Walking being the gerund, is the verb, a singular verb. Drinking being the gerund, ensures a singular verb, right? So walking is a good form of exercise. Drinking enough water ensures a healthy and hydrated body. Okay, rule number 12. We use singular verbs with expressions of distance, money, time, weight, etc. Remember this, please. We use singular verbs with expressions of distance, money, time, weight, etc., but only if they refer to an individual sum or quantity. Only if they refer to an individual sum or quantity. So we say $30 million has been spent on the new train terminal. $30 million has been spent on the new train terminal. 8 hours of good sleep enables us to be alert all day. Now, in both these sentences, you can see we have expressions of money and expressions of time, right? And they are talked of, or they're spoken in an individual sense, right? Singularly. So $30 million, an expression of money, is followed by a singular verb, according to the rule. So $30 million has been spent on the new train terminal. You could say $3,000 is a lot of money for me. $3,000 is a lot of money for me. You can never say, or you never say $3,000 are a lot of money to me. No, $3,000 is a lot of money for me. Or 8 hours of good sleep enables us to be alert all day. Or say, for example, 5 kilometers is a long way to travel. 5 kilometers is a long way to walk, right? 5 kilometers is and not are. Good. All right. Moving on to the next slide and the final slide of today's presentation, of today's lecture, we have rule number 13 and rule number 14. In rule number 13, what we see, we use singular verbs with the phrases a lot of, all of, most, some of, etc. when they go with uncountable nouns. We use plural verbs with the phrases when they go with plural countable nouns, right? So you see the phrases a lot of, all of, most, some of. These are phrases, and usually what we do is when we use them with uncountable nouns, right? And we learned this when we were discussing uncountable nouns, that right after uncountable nouns are singular. Therefore, since uncountable nouns are singular, the verbs that follow them must be singular as well. So you see, when we use these phrases with uncountable nouns, the verbs that follow these phrases along with uncountable nouns must be singular in form as well. However, if these phrases are used with plural countable nouns, then in that case, of course, the verbs will be in their plural form, such as, let's take a look at the examples. Under rule number 13, we have most of the stuff at the back of the storeroom is useless. Most of the stuff at the back of the storeroom is useless. Here, most of the stuff. Now, stuff is, of course, certain things or many things together. But when you say stuff, the word stuff or the noun stuff is an uncountable noun. You cannot possibly count it, right? So since the word is an uncountable noun and we have the phrase most of with it, together it is an uncountable subject. So together it is an uncountable, a singular subject. Therefore, we have put the verb is with it, which is a singular verb. Because with singular subject, we go with singular verb. So we say most of the stuff at the back of the storeroom is useless. Most of the stuff at the back of the storeroom is useless. However, in the very next sentence example, what do we have? Most of our friends. Here, the word friends is, of course, a plural countable noun. You can count how many friends you have, right? So when you say most of our friends, you of course definitely follow this subject phrase with a plural verb, because here your verb, your subject is plural, countable, and plural. Therefore, the verb must be plural as well. So you say most of our friends are coming to watch us perform tonight. Most of our friends are coming to watch us perform tonight. In the third example, under rule number 13, we have a lot of sympathy needs to be extended to earthquake victims. A lot of sympathy needs to be extended to earthquake victims. Now, in this sentence, in this example, what do you see? A lot of sympathy, right? Now, sympathy is another, it's an abstract noun, right? Therefore, an uncountable noun. So you have the phrase a lot of with the word sympathy. So a lot of sympathy together forms a singular subject. Therefore, a singular verb must follow. So we have needs. So we say a lot of sympathy needs to be extended to earthquake victims. A lot of drivers need extra patience before their driving test. And follow this. Drivers, on the other hand, is of course countable noun, right? A plural countable noun. So along with the phrase a lot of, and along with the phrase a lot of, the entire subject phrase has become plural, right? So we have a plural subject phrase. Therefore, a plural verb must follow. So we say a lot of drivers need extra practice before their driving test. A lot of drivers need extra practice before their driving test. Rule number 14, important, follow this. We use singular verbs with abstract nouns. Remember this. We use singular verbs with abstract nouns. Abstract nouns refer to feelings, ideas, or qualities such as excitement, freedom, training, etc. They cannot be sensed with our five senses. Now, we've learned that abstract nouns are mostly singular because you cannot count them. You cannot count most abstract nouns, such as, for example, you cannot count integrity. You cannot count honesty. Therefore, since they're uncountable, they are singular in nature, and they are treated as singular nouns, as singular subjects, to be followed by singular verbs. So we say integrity is an important quality in leadership. Integrity is an important quality in leadership, and not integrity are. Honesty is the key to success, and not honesty are, right? So we say integrity is an important quality in leadership. Honesty is the key to success, right? Okay, so this is pretty much it for today. Thank you for staying with us. I hope to see you all tomorrow again. Tomorrow we will be discussing with another important advanced English grammar chapter, inshallah. I hope none of you will miss tomorrow's session. And yeah, thank you all. Thank you all for participating in today's session. And all of you who have registered with us today will be availed a quiz on subject-verb agreement by tonight, inshallah. Try to take the quiz and judge your own understanding of what you have understood today. All right? So see you tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and take care. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.